Hey guys, what's going on? Coach Chris, Team Critical Bench, hanging out with Alain Gonzalez of Muscle Monsters. You might recognize his face. If not, go check it out right now, youtube.com/Muscle Monsters, right? And we're talking, we have a lot of things that we want to get to, but we want to talk about the P word.
Periodization.
Periodization, and why you need to be a little bit more comfortable with that, because if you're lifting with a goal, periodization is pretty darn important. So you should really be comfortable with that term and understand how meaningful it can be. So shed some light on the P word for our viewers.
All right, just because my whole thing is trying to simplify things so that everyone understands and it doesn't get too boring, basically we're going to talk about today how we should periodize different rep ranges for different adaptations and how they kind of spill over to each other to increase both muscle mass and strength in the gym.
Right. You were just telling me you're kind of getting into some powerlifting stuff right now, but would you say you're more known for like more bodybuilding approaches to training for more aesthetics and looks? But so maybe talk through like rep ranges for performance, like performance-based rep ranges versus maybe aesthetic-based rep ranges. You know what I mean? Like hypertrophy versus like strength. Somebody who's like working on their strength isn't going to be probably doing a lot of 12 rep exercise sets. Not a lot. Right. They're going to be focused more on your 4 to 6 ranges and stuff. So I don't know. I guess it depends on what's your goal, right? And B, what method are you going to use to get to your goal the fastest?
And I think what a lot of people don't realize is how interconnected strength and muscle mass is. Sure. So for example, if someone just focused on building just their 1 rep max by training 1 rep maxes every day, they're probably not going to get too big. Of course. And if someone trained just for aesthetics, and they only trained, say for example, 12 reps. Everything was 12 reps. Right. They're probably not going to get much stronger. It's actually going to get to a point to where progressing is going to become much more difficult, right? Because of the adaptations. Right. So let's say, for example, your goal is to just build muscle. If you want to build muscle, your goal should actually be to build strength. That doesn't mean that your goal is to bench press 500 pounds for a single. Sure. It just means you need to get stronger relative to your goal. Right? So if you're bench pressing 135 for 4 sets of 8, then if you continue to bench press 135 for 4 sets of 8, your body is not going to have to adapt in order to grow. Right? So when you're a beginner, right, you can progress in a linear fashion. So we can go from that 135 to that 40 or 140, and we'll grow. And at a certain point, that just doesn't happen anymore. Otherwise, we would all be squatting and bench pressing 1,000 pounds. Right, because it would just continually go up 5-10 pounds every time. Right, exactly. And that's why when you get to a certain training age, I guess you could say, it's important that we train a little bit smarter, and that's where more non-linear periodization comes into play. So for example, somebody might train 2 or 3 different rep ranges. We might train in the 3 to 5, which is going to be more mechanical stress, which is going to obviously increase our strength. Okay? It's also going to strengthen our ligaments and our tendons. So, and that's another thing, maybe for another video. Training for strength, as long as you're using good form and controlling the weight, is actually going to help you prevent injury rather than what most people think.
I know. What I mean? It's a huge misconception. I know.
Exactly.
But, people hear like 5x5 training and stuff and get scared. It's like, wow, I'm working with only heavy weight all the time. I'm probably more injury prone. You're actually, it's the other way around. As long as your form and your technique is on point, you're making your tendons and all that connective tissue just like bulletproof. Right, exactly.
And then so that's for strength, right? You're going to want to train in that rep range for strength. But you also want some kind of metabolic stress, right? And that's when we train maybe into the 8 to 12 rep range, right? Which is more considered hypertrophy.
Right.
So what's going to happen is you might even want to train at a higher rep range, maybe 15 reps.
Right.
That's even more metabolic stress. And what that rep range is going to produce is the increase of lactate threshold, which then spills over to the lower rep ranges by allowing us to train with a heavier weight for a longer period of time.
Right.
And then with the strength,
so just strength endurance, basically.
Right.
What you're
Essentially,
doing.
yes.
You're providing your body with that ability to like push the envelope when failure is imminent.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, if you only train for 15 reps, then you're probably not going to be able to increase the weight you're using too frequently.
Right.
So we go back down to the heavier training. And what that's going to produce, again, is strength. So when you do get stronger, now when you train in that 15 rep range, you're going to be stronger there as well.
Yeah.
Same for the 6 to 12. So they kind of all interconnect with each other.
And so that's why somebody needs to realize implementing both intelligently, having a real plan, a 3-month or 4-month plan, whenever far enough out for your goal. You have to have phases.
Right.
You can't just be 8 to 12 reps for 3 months
and
expect to get to where you want to be.
Not if you're not a beginner anymore.
Right, exactly. Right.
And then that kind of goes into why DUP, or daily undulating periodization, is so popular now.
Right.
It's because of the way that the adaptations are intertwined in your training. We used to always do like 1 month was just strength and you trained heavy that month, and then another month you did hypertrophy.
Right.
And the problem with that is that by the time you're finishing your hypertrophy block, the adaptations that you got from your strength block are kind of going away. They're diminishing.
Absolutely.
With daily undulating periodization, where we're training a different rep range each day, what's happening is you're keeping those adaptations and they're helping each other out in the process.
And we've talked about the DUP method before on our channel.
Okay, awesome.
You can always do a search on Critical Bench and look up DUP method, and there'll be some information on there. I mean, I'm glad we're going over that, because it's really easy to be A, confused, or B, just not you're going to the gym, you think you're doing all the right things, you're learning from other people.
Right.
And who look strong, look like they have a certain amount of muscle, but maybe they're just lucky genetically.
Sure.
They don't really know what the hell they're doing.
Right.
I mean, there's plenty of guys like that. We've come across all kinds. You see guys busting their ass who don't seem to ever get anywhere because they're just following the wrong method.
Right.
And then you see guys who are just doing anything, looking at a weight, and they're just freakishly muscular. And you know what? That's like your 1 or 3% of the guys working out
when
hard.
you take advice from those guys, it's like taking business advice from a guy who inherited his money or something like that.
No, you're right.
And
exactly.
And when you're listening to somebody who's maybe not as big, and maybe they do know what they're talking about, which I guess you would have to determine that. It's kind of like listening to somebody who maybe was homeless at one point and built like, maybe like something that's not so impressive, like, 60 grand a year business in a year or something like that. Right. That's kind of how you have to look at it, because a lot of the time, even with me, since I've come from being, 107 pounds as a full grown adult. I'm not talking
skinny hard gainer.
Yeah, I'm not talking about, just like a skinny kid in high school. I'm talking about a full blown adult with kids whose kids probably weighed the same as him. It's hard for, the bigger guys to kind of say, okay, I'll listen to him. Well, because you don't see where you can't look at where I'm at. You got to look at where I came from.
Absolutely right.
So that's kind of the same.
It's 100% true. Right. Thanks a lot, Alain, for just shedding some light on periodization, because I know I've been confused in the past, and when I was in my late teens, early 20s, when that information would have really benefited me, it wasn't really there. At least not like it is today. I would have. I dream sometimes of what I would have been like had I known all this great stuff back when I was, a little bit younger. But use this information to your advantage, and be sure to check the description area below, because we're going to drop some links in there for you. Alain was telling me he's definitely got some good research information proving that doing this type of, having this approach to your training is going to just get you so much further.
Yeah, essentially it's just a couple of studies that have shown daily undulating periodization versus regular nonlinear periodization and how it's superior. So you could check those out down below. Yeah,
definitely check them out below. Subscribe to Alain's Muscle Monsters for sure, and we'll throw that in there as well, so you can click on that right away. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.